Hey everybody, welcome back to At Home, the show where I get a chance to, talk with friends and folks at Cisco, partner community, and others about, how this crisis that we're all dealing with has affected their lives and, what they're doing to kind of work their way through it. So today we're at home with my friend Eric Thiel. Eric, how's it going, man?
Hey, it's going well. How about you?
Oh, just another day in paradise. No, it's actually really good. How are things for you these days?
Things are good. They're pretty busy, but as you know, my role is typically virtual, so not a lot has changed, at least work wise. Personal, it's nice getting out of the house every once in a while, even if it's just for a walk around the block. That's a little bit different, I would say. Is looking forward to the little things like that, or driving a mile away to drop off a package or something like that.
I know those little quick trips to the store are like, oh my God, I get to go run to the store. This is awesome. I got to mask up and whatever else, but at least I get to leave the house.
Yep, exactly.
How are are you in San Diego area, right?
Yeah, I'm in San Diego. Yep.
Nice. How are things down there right now? Has it been pretty bad down there, or?
So I'll be honest, I don't get out much, so it's a little hard to say. Where we're at, we're kind of out in the suburbs, so it's not that. I wouldn't say it's that extreme where we're at. Like we go to the grocery store and there's a long line and everyone's got their masks, but things are pretty calm, I would say. I think as a city, I think things are going pretty well. I don't think there's been a lot of impact. It's not been nearly as bad as a lot of the other cities. So we have that going for us.
That's helpful for sure. And how has that been for you? You at home with the family? You've got a kid who's in middle school or high school or something, right?
No, grade school. He's just turned 8 2 weeks ago, actually. So
awesome.
we got to do a at home celebrate alone birthday. Lots of FaceTime with the family. But
did you guys do one of those everyone drove by and honked their horns and stuff like that?
We didn't, and ironically enough, those have been a little bit of a challenge for me, just because we live on a corner, so lots of people doing that drive by, and as we're preparing recordings for Cisco Live or for other events, it's tough if someone happens to be driving by doing one of those. Got to plan my day around it. But no, at 2, my son, it was much more low key. We went out that weekend, picked him up a bike, since he was itching to get into an adult bike, and that was about it. Laid low around the house.
Very cool. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen it in your area, but up here in the East Bay, there's a company. I don't know the name of them. I think it's called Sign Gypsies or something. They put happy birthday signs or whatever in people's front yards. So you hire them, they come out and they do this whole it's almost like a window dressing for a store, but a display in your front yard. It's happy birthday with everyone different things, but these very legit setups they'll stick in your front yard as a happy birthday you can pay for. We've been seeing them everywhere now because everyone's doing the whole drive-by thing. I watched the answer at that point.
I have not seen any of those down here, no, but sounds like a fun way to at least try and have some fun on the day.
Hey, you know what? You got to do something when you're at home all the time. You got to find some way to celebrate even a little bit. I'm kind of curious about it. So I as I've been talking to a lot of folks, we both work for Cisco. You're in a different part of the organization. I'm in sales. You're in our DevNet, in the DevNet org. I'm curious because, in sales, we still have to talk to and interact with customers on a constant basis, which is different, obviously, than what you're doing. You have teams, obviously, but I'm really curious between you and, the people that you work with on a daily basis. You mentioned that most of your stuff is virtual for the most part anyway, but how has it affected, what would you say the biggest impact to what you do every day has really been now that you're in this role?
So it's kind of funny, for my specific team, it's actually a pretty significant impact as a whole to what we do, because my role is technical advocacy. So a good portion of that is going to events and doing, whether it's the DevNet zone at Cisco Live, or we had our own event scheduled this spring that we had to postpone because of all of the event issues. So my team is charged with getting out there and getting to know the community and understanding what they're going through and what challenges they're having or what opportunities there are with APIs on our platforms. So not being able to do that has been pretty interesting. We've really tried to branch out and think of creative ways to engage. So we've been doing a bi-weekly, what we're calling a Solutions IT huddle, which is just getting people together and having conversations like you would around the water cooler. There's no agenda. We don't record it. It's just, a bunch of people show up. And one week we were talking about the Minecraft servers that some of us spun up to help, coworkers, kids kind of have some fun. Someone showed how they were able to use a magic wand to control their TV and some servers. Like it's just the kind of conversations you would have around the water cooler, but it's a way for us to do it, in a virtual world. So I think stuff like that is helping us just keep that sense of connection to the people that we normally would go out and actually meet on. We'd have, between all the different Cisco Lives and all the other events, most of us would be at an event at least every quarter. And so we're trying to fill some of that, and then trying to figure out at the same time, how do we continue to give the right experience for people? So a lot of what people were looking for my team to do is provide good technical demos and hands-on workshops and things like that. And again, really difficult to do right now. We're trying to figure out ways to do it in creative ways to get as close as we can.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's got to be, it's so interesting. I think is what I'm trying to say, that as different as our roles are, they're not that different in a lot of ways, but as different as, like, I'm, engineering manager for sales, engineering manager, you're an engineering manager on basically on the DevNet side. Are the impact we're feeling it really isn't that much different, because you still need to have that sort of connection with the people, the community that you work with on a regular basis. For us, it's, customers to either sell things or build relationships and help them see the advantage of Cisco products. And you're basically doing the same thing, just from kind of a different perspective. And I can imagine, it's really good, I think, for me to hear that, because too often I hear other folks in similar roles to me, but they're not in sales. And as much as I understand that there's a lot more to the company and the world than sales, I have also been in other parts of the world too. And it's so interesting to hear that just how similar the challenges we all face are literally to each other. Like we are dealing with the same things every day, really.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because some of it is just the small stuff like that you don't even think of until you get there. We were doing some planning for next year, and normally you'd get everyone together in a room and get some Post-it notes out, or get a whiteboard out, and we can't do that. So we're finding lots of interesting tools out there. We used one where people could have virtual, basically, Post-it notes, and we could rearrange things dynamically, and it ended up working out all right. It definitely wasn't the same as being able to be in person and have those sidebar conversations, and go and have a dinner in between a few days of planning, so that you can unwind and have some less stressed discussions with your peers, that without the pressure of having to get through everything in a couple of days, kind of a situation.
Yeah.
But we're doing the best we can, trying to explore new creative solutions to those experiences.
That's cool. Yeah. It's interesting that I hadn't thought about doing a lot of those. I love the idea of the virtual water cooler sort of thing. The SEs on my team are all doing kind of their own versions of that in different ways. One of the guys on my team, he's an amateur DJ on the side. It has been for a while now, but so he hasn't been doing a lot of that stuff, but they've kind of moved some of it to virtual. One of the other guys on my team told me that he, I don't remember the service, but it was some service that let you basically play almost any game you wanted to play, like all these old fantasy games or role-playing games, but with anyone you wanted to play them. So like you could send a message to a bunch of friends and say, hey, you want to play not D&D, but like some other, like a board game, like you want to play Monopoly? Cool. Spin up this virtual server, like in kind of like a Steam thing. Spin this up and people can jump on. You can all play together at the same time. And I'm like, that's pretty wild. Like I never thought about actually doing that. And now I'm starting to think maybe I should be doing that with my team a little bit more often. Like it's just a way to get together and like hang out for a little bit, since we can't do that normally.
Yeah. Now I'm going to have to go look and see if they have Risk out there, because I played that as a kid.
I'm going to kill an entire day just to play a game of Risk. I remember that. Something I've had, everybody I've had on the show, and I'm super curious to hear it from you, is as challenging, we might kind of be smiles and like laughing about some of this too. It's hard for everybody, but one thing I'm really curious about from your perspective is if you had to think of it kind of on the maybe positive, or at least like the more upbeat side of what has come out of, and little guys walk in the room right now while I'm recording. Can you walk out, right? Always happens. It's all good. if you were to think of one thing that was sort of positive, or at least that has been on the helpful side for you from this, what would you say is like one thing that has changed for you, or that you're doing differently now that has actually helped sort of maintain that rhythm for you every day? I don't mean like the work-life balance of like 2 hours of work, 2 hours of personal, but like that rhythm every day that like just keeps you kind of flowing. What would you say is like one thing you're doing differently now that, to kind of like maintain that?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I find myself getting up earlier a lot more, which is almost counterintuitive because at least for a lot of people, now they don't have commutes and stuff.
Mhm.
I never really did, but I find it that much harder, at the end of the day, uh, you know, taking a little bit of time to unwind and then have to pick up again, usually after kiddo bedtime to go do a little bit more work. So I've started trying to take at least a little time in the morning so I can focus on things that I wanted to focus on, still work, but I want to spend an hour looking into this because it was something really interesting. So I found that I've kind of dialed my waking up time a little bit earlier just to make sure I have a little time to focus on what I want to be focusing on. And honestly, I'm not even sure that's related to, the work from home stuff or any of that. I think it's just really, I think I'm finding a lot more meetings in general with the team to try and coordinate on things. So it may just be that that's driven me to need the time allocated versus I would naturally otherwise have it throughout the week.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I was talking to the episode that published or that came out on Monday. One of the SC managers in Southern California, she and I were talking, and one of the things she brought up was my wife and I came up with this idea that, and we're still figuring it out a little bit. We have this idea of sort of like sacred time throughout the day. So she works from home exclusively. She has for the last 10 years doing marketing and freelance marketing things for businesses. And so what we kind of did is, now that my son's home all the time, he's 4.5, you can't just like let him go do whatever he wants. You do have to pay a little bit more attention to him at that age. And so we came up with this idea of like sacred time, like 3 or 4 hours a day are blocked off of my calendar or even my work calendar for her to work. And I leave the room because we share this office, and I go be with him for that hour, and I don't work. I try not to. It never goes well if I actually do. But it was so interesting because she had heard that from me. She's like, my husband and I tried that and it completely didn't work for us. She's like, it actually created more stress in our life. We end up just doing this kind of more of a day by day thing and don't even plan out for the weekend. We just do things every day that we want to do. She's like, because we were just so stressed out trying to wait for this arbitrary weekend or find these 1 hour chunks that we could do things. She's like, forget it now. If you're in meetings for 3 hours, that's different. You're not going to get up and walk away. But if you have a half an hour, like, let's just go do this thing, whatever it happens to be. And I thought that was so interesting that we all kind of like, you getting up a little bit earlier, her doing this on a day-to-day basis. It's just, we all kind of like find that thing that works for our own personality type to kind of just keep us going throughout this process.
Yeah. Yeah. And the funniest part is I'm not at all a morning person. So it's really seems contrary to my personality type, but I've just found that somehow maybe it's the old age kicking in that I found I can get up earlier and not be in bad shape all day.
I hear you.
So
have you found when you get up in the mornings and do that stuff, do you find do you sort of find yourself, would you call it like kind of, I don't want to overstate the like idea of deep work, but is it like, if you get up a little bit early, is it sort of the deep work things, or is it oftentimes also like there's something I just really wanted to be distracted on for a while, I'm just going to go let myself get rabbit hole on that for a bit?
It's actually kind of most of the time it's neither of the above. It's getting rid of technical debt that otherwise builds up and causes me stress. So whether it's catching up on emails, which as it is, I was never all that good at, but now the less time you have throughout the day, the harder it is to keep on top of them. Yeah. So a lot of times it's just I feel better having done that. So if I start my day by saying I just knocked out 50% of the messages that were in my backlog. I feel I'm that much less stressed throughout the day. Otherwise, I'd get up in time for my first meeting and I'd look at this giant number on the screen in front of me on email and giant number on screen for WebEx Teams unread. Yeah. And, it was just kind of this weight on my shoulders all day. So I think it actually helps me knowing, great, I actually, no matter what else happens today, I took care of some of my debt. I took care of some of my backlog, and that's one less thing to stress about.
That's a really interesting way to think about it. I don't know about you, but you sound like you're a little bit like the challenge I have, which is with Teams and with or whatever messaging client and Outlook. I'm terrible with, I get this on my phone all the time. If I open up an app and I see the little red dot that says I have unread things, I'm like, I have to touch it and I've got to make these things read. Or I have to, get them to be unread to read or whatever. And something with like Outlook, if I wake up in the morning and I have 50 unread messages, I'm like, oh my God, I've got to clean this up because otherwise I feel like it causes me stress. It creates, which is kind of the way I like to keep Outlook closed most of the time. And I've like set a precedent that like, if you need something urgently, don't email me because I am not going to look at it till later today. But it sounds like that's kind of something like I like the idea of thinking about it more from the perspective of these are messages, things I need to reply to periodically, but let me get done early so I can start the day off with I'm kind of caught up on the messaging, and then I can leave this alone and focus on the work that I need to do. And I can check in the messages later on rather than this is always kind of here. I need to just keep a feed on the news of the day happening. It doesn't have to be so much that. That's an interesting way to think about it.
And then I end up using like that nighttime after kids in bed, and that's when I usually do that deeper work or that passion projects or whatever it might be. If I want to write some code to go do something, usually it's in that window because I'll grab a soda. It's nice and quiet in the house. I can throw some TV or music on in the background and just kind of put my head down and get some work done without, thinking, oh, I got to hurry up and finish this before my next meeting or something. So might end up coding half the night, but it's my time. So I know that I can do what I need to and get it done.
I like that. Last night, my wife and I were sitting on the backyard because the temperature in California, at least in Northern California, has been really nice. So last night we finally got my son to bed. He was so wound up. I went to sleep. We go in the backyard. I had my iPad out. She's like, I'm just going to go to bed because I'm tired. I'm like, okay, cool. But I had my iPad up and I had Trello up and I had something else. And I'm like, I'm just hammering at tasks. So I'm moving some lists around. I'm getting like caught up. And I'm like, I tell myself during the day, it's like busy work. But then when I do it, it's the planning stuff. And I know that when I do that, then I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, I don't feel so stressed out because here's the list of things to work on and I can just go do it. And it's not a big deal. But it's so, I don't know, it's so easy to like not prioritize that right now because we focus on like having to get whatever work or things that we have to get done. And then like, but in the back of your mind, you kind of know that, but if I don't do this, I'm going to be more stressed tomorrow. Why don't I just button this up real quick and get it done?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much. I totally love the idea of the sort of virtual water cooler and all of that. I am totally going to use that as part of the episode title, I think, which is kind of fantastic. But listen, man, Thank you so much. It's really good having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and feel free to stop by our virtual water cooler anytime. We do it every other week now. So
I would love to, dude. Awesome. All right. See ya, Eric. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining at home again. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun so far making these videos and getting a chance to talk to more people with their own perspectives on how this crisis is affecting them. And hopefully it gives you some ideas about not just what you can do for yourself to help, and make your day work a little smoother, but also gives you the chance to really give yourself permission to do whatever it is you need to do to own your own time so that you can stay healthy and safe right now. If you like the video, I would love a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel. Leave any comments below if you have any input or feedback. If there's other folks that you would love me to interview, or if you're interested in being interviewed, put them in the comments below. I'd really appreciate it. And also, if you want to keep up on any new videos, just click the big subscribe button. You get notifications in YouTube. I put these out every Monday, or at least I try to, and post them on LinkedIn as well. But subscribe will also get you a notification in YouTube. Well, thanks again, guys, and have a great week. We'll see you.